I used to believe in trickle-down human rights. Now I don't. Let me explain. In this video, I'm going to talk about something a little different than my usual topics. I'm speaking today about the Canadian charities Rainbow Railroad and Rainbow Refugee. In another post, I'll talk a bit more about the mechanics of refugee sponsorship in Canada. As a gay man, I found myself working directly and indirectly for better treatment of the LGBTQ population since the early 1980s. Nothing heroic, nothing dramatic, but it's been a little part of my career and my non-career. When you're working for a community and you're a member of that community, it can feel a bit self-serving. One way around that is to remind yourself that the changes that might benefit you will also benefit others in your community. If Canada passes marriage legislation, you can get married, but so can many others. Now, potentially, that goes beyond international borders. If one country passes same-sex marriage, people in another country may look and say, hey, their society didn't fall apart. Maybe we could do that. I've spent most of my life believing that positive changes within Canada, within the developed West, generalized to positive changes in other countries. Maybe there's not much I could do about the situation of gay people in Uganda. But if Canada moved forward, we might create momentum that would move that situation forward too, at least a little bit. It's very much like trickle-down economics. If you give tons of money to the rich, they will spend it in such a way that everyone benefits. Well, it turns out that's not true. And I don't think trickle-down human rights is true either. In the West, in Canada, the United States, Europe, Australia, we've made huge strides. And the life of an LGBTQ person is, in general, vastly better than it was in the 1950s and 1960s. Among LGBTQ people worldwide, we are the privileged. But this has given some countries a way to distinguish themselves from the decadent West. We may be poorer. We may not have everything that those countries have. But we are more virtuous. We don't tolerate those people. We don't celebrate those decadent lifestyles. And to prove it, they can pass laws that restrict the rights of their LGBTQ citizens even more than they used to. It's possible that not only have our very real gains in recent years not benefited people in the developing world, these gains may actually have cost progress in those countries. People like us in some countries may be worse off because we are better off. I like my old way of thinking better. It meant that if we could create positive change in our home country, we could just sit back and relax, knowing that we'd helped our own people and people around the world. We had the option of changing our focus and helping people abroad. But it was just that, an option. But if my privilege has come at the expense of other people, then maybe I don't have that option. Maybe it's a duty. Maybe it's a debt. And if I sit around and relax, maybe it's a debt unpaid. There still isn't much I can do about those countries or their legal systems. I can be out publicly here, and these videos, for example, can be seen by anyone on Earth, but Who knows if that helps? There is one option. Canada is the only country on earth that has a private refugee sponsorship system. Groups of concerned Canadians can form sponsorship circles under the auspices of a sponsorship agreement holder, or SAH, organization. And they can sponsor an individual, a couple, or a family that has been pre-cleared by the United Nations High Commission for Refugees and by the Canadian government. These circles agree to help fund the refugees' first year in Canada: food, housing, and related expenses. And they help people with adjustment, learning English, getting around public transit, finding employment, taking courses, and giving them an initial social circle. In the gay community, Rainbow Refugee in Vancouver and Rainbow Railroad in Toronto work with sponsorship circles across the country to help LGBTQ refugees who face dangerous circumstances because of their sexual minority status. People can be involved as part of a sponsorship circle, but that's not for everyone. You can also give money to these organizations or to specific circles by donating through Canada Helps. Donations are tax deductible. Now, no one has to think the way I think. It's not the only way to think, believe me. Whether you see helping people in other countries as a good option or as a responsibility, these organizations are two ways of making a real difference in people's lives. I've given links to them and to Canada Helps below. If you like videos like this, consider subscribing.